going to share my screen here and get started. Okay, so we are talking about what every college athlete needs to know about earning income from NIL. And you know, it's interesting because it's not really like, this is not a session for college athletes. This is a session for professors who are looking to figure out what those student athletes really need to know in this particular space. So I'm going to go through 4 things today. And the first one is, what is NIL? I'm sure that everyone on this call knows it, but I'm going to share that anyways in short order. And why does NIL matter? And this is a really key thing in terms of getting some NIL activities connected at your university. Number 3 is opportunities for student athletes. And that's really what they need to know. And also, what can you do as a professor, as an educator? What can you do? So the first is, what is NIL? For those of you that don't know, student athletes now can profit from their name, image, and likeness. And so one of the things that I wanted to know from you guys, and you can put this in the chat at any time, but how is your school helping student athletes with their name, image, and likeness? Do you have an educational course? Is there a partnership between academics and athletics? Is it just an athletic department focus anyways, only? I would love to hear about what your university is doing in this particular space. I just attended the NIL Summit in Atlanta, and I got to hear from all sorts of student athletes who were talking about what their university was doing and what they were personally doing in this space. So I'd love to hear more about what you guys are doing. So the second thing that we're going to talk about is, why does NIL matter? And this is what I mentioned before. This is kind of important, because why NIL matters is, number one, I'm showing a few coaches from Oklahoma State. I do have my Oklahoma State baseball jersey on today, but why does NIL matter? And one of the biggest reasons is these coaches, our coaches at Oklahoma State, are out talking to prospective students. And the question that they're getting asked is, how is your school doing with NIL? And are your student athletes making any money? So this is a critical question, because it matters to those prospective students. Now, from a marketing perspective, I'm a marketing professor. My business is marketing. Everything about what I do is about marketing. But when you take a step back and you go, okay, yeah, the coaches are getting asked these questions about name, image, and likeness, and how our student athletes at Oklahoma State are doing. In addition to that, when our teams win, I don't know if you know this, but you probably do. When teams win, and when they win a lot, we actually see an influx of more and higher quality level prospective students looking at Oklahoma State. We get better quality students. We get more donations to the university, and even on the academic side, because our teams win. It fires up the alumni. We want to continue to be a good teams. And in order to do that, we've got to have good athletes. And no matter if you're Division II or you're Division III or Division I, athletics really matters at universities in terms of not just being something that generates some income, but it absolutely is something that brings people together. And so from a marketing perspective, it matters. We're marketing our school. From a athletic perspective, it matters, because if we're doing well at NIL, the coaches get to talk about that. So I just think it's really, really important on what is actually happening in NIL space. Okay, so it looks like Kristen is Division II, and at this time, she doesn't think that there's much guidance. And I would say that, Division II, Division III, but even at Division I, at some schools, there's a lack of coordination. And the coordination that I think is the most important is this coordination between the athletic and the academics. I mean, we're a university. And so what is the connection? How are we using this opportunity to educate our student athletes? And whether you're a student athlete at any division, only 2% of student athletes go pro, which means they're going to be in some other business. And looking at what we can do and how we can help them with their own name, image, and likeness. These are lifelong skills that they're learning that I think every student should probably go through and learn personal branding strategies. It's not a number one taught course at many universities, especially on the NIL side. So everyone is trying to figure out how to do this, how to serve our student athletes, but also, how to bring the academic side into what is really an athletic department sort of a situation. So let's talk about some opportunities for student athletes. And this is where, when we talk about what every college athlete needs to know about earning income, it's really about, well, how do I do this? And whether you're at a Division I school and you're a soccer player, you might think, this is not really for me. This is for football and basketball players. And truth be told, a lot of football and basketball players, female and male basketball players, female gymnastics, gymnasts have gotten a lot of great NIL deals. But there's so much more that a soccer player could actually get and garner a lot of NIL deals, because that soccer player has a position, they have a presence, and they also have, which is really important, they have their own name, image, and likeness that the fans are interested in. If you're an athlete at any school, people are interested in how you got there, what you did. I mean, most people never are an athlete at a Division I, II, or III school. So it's really important to think about how we can help and teach these students to take advantage of these opportunities. Okay, so let's talk about the opportunities. Basically, what we have asked in this idea of name, image, and likeness is we have said to student athletes, okay, so you're a student and an athlete, or as I like to say with my son, an athlete and a student, although I really tried to make him a student first. The issue is we're asking student athletes who have their plates full to now be influencers. And it's crazy. It's absolutely a nutso thing to think that a student athlete has all of this extra time to become an influencer, to figure out how to do social media and use social media and figure out what is a good brand, because the way that they've been using social media their entire lives is different than the way that you would use it if you're really trying to put yourself out there in a way that would be positive for brands. So we're asking a lot of these student athletes. But there's tons of opportunities. And again, one of the biggest opportunities is this opportunity to teach them lifelong lessons. I mean, if they have a positive brand, this is going to last with them their entire career, learning how to speak in front of the media, learning how to post on social media and what are good types of posts and what gets engagement, what doesn't, how do you increase followers, how do you engage with brands, how do you talk to brands, contract negotiation. All of these kinds of things are unbelievable types of things that student athletes are learning now, in addition to the game plan, the playbook, and all of those other kinds of things that they're learning and their academic side. But there's all sorts of opportunities. There's sponsorships and endorsements. They can do social media posts, video advertisements. I'm going to show you some of the ones that we have seen that I think are really pretty significant. So this is Ohio State. I mean, massive deals. He can drive whatever car he wants, whenever it is. And these are very expensive vehicles. So he has a huge deal. And I mentioned football players get a lot of good deals. He's got a great deal. And a lot of the big schools get really big deals. Now, Oklahoma State's a big school, but we're not a school that gets a lot of five-star athletes. So because of that, we don't get the same kind of NIL deals. We don't have any kind of these deals at Oklahoma State. We have some. And I'll actually show you one here in a second. So this is one of our Oklahoma State athletes, and he got a car deal. He gets to drive this orange car around campus. It is pretty cool. But we don't have a lot of these big, massive deals that you read about in the media. And the other thing that I'd like to mention is there's a difference between NIL, true NIL deals, and what collectives are doing. So the collectives are saying, hey, I mean, it's not, we don't do this at Oklahoma State, but some schools are saying, hey, if you come and play for us, we'll give you X amount of dollars. And that money is coming from a collective of alumni, a collective of dollars that have been accumulated by an outside source from the school. We have a collective at Oklahoma State, but we don't do that. We don't do that. We have honest NIL deals that are coming in the form of something just a little bit different. They're deals with local businesses. They're deals that are coming in a much different way. And let me see if I can get some people in the room here. There we go. And there's other kinds of deals. There's trading cards. So there's all sorts of things that a student athlete can think about in terms of what are the opportunities that face that student athlete. What could I do? Well, we could do, it's really kind of unlimited, but here are some of the ones that I see that I really like and that are really selling well. Now, this is a TikTok. This is an athlete at Oregon, and she is, by the way, she's 6'7", 6'7" tall. She is very, very tall. And she's also an amazing basketball player. She's got 3.1 million followers on TikTok. She posts, and this particular post that you see there got 2.9 million watches. It's incredible. And she's been able to monetize that by putting herself out there and just talking about what's going on in her life, talking about what she's doing, and also being a really great female basketball player. But we've seen it doesn't have to be a really great female basketball player or male basketball player or football player to be able to do this and take advantage of these kinds of things. So she's really monetizing this, which is amazing. Okay, so then you could also do training camps. We've got student athletes who this summer are starting to do different training camps and take advantage of, giving back to the community, but also maybe getting a sponsor for their training camp and being able to share that way, which is really, really interesting. So that's another opportunity. And then student athletes now are able to do something that's pretty interesting. So they're able to actually do things and make money with other kinds of talents that they may have. So Will Ulmer, and he's pretty amazing. He's an offensive lineman, but he also is a country singer. And he actually, according to what I read about him, he used to, when he would sing in public, he would have to go by an assumed name if he was going to make any money doing it at all. Now he can be Will Ulmer and he can go out and sing, hopefully during the off season, but he's doing these kinds of things and now he can get paid for that and he can use the talents that he has. We have musicians at Oklahoma State. We've got artists at Oklahoma State who are able to do that it's not necessarily an NIL deal, but they're able to take advantage of these things. And what does it require? It requires branding. They've got to figure out how to present themselves in a way that's going to make sense to a business, to someone who might sponsor them, and someone who might really be interested in giving back to your school's student athletes. So, I get this all the time, but what about the majority of student athletes that are not a football player, that are not a basketball player, that are not a gymnast? Gymnasts get huge deals, but we don't have a gymnastics program at Oklahoma State. I wish we did, but what about the majority of student athletes? They can still make and profit from their name, image, and likeness, especially on teams like our softball team is great. We're selling jerseys for the players on our softball team. We've got all sorts of other kind of opportunities with teams that are not at that #1 high echelon getting national attention. But we do see that local businesses want to sponsor local athletes or athletes that are in their locality because it helps their business, it helps them. Okay, so now we're getting to the meat of this, which is, well, what can you do as a professor, as an academic, as someone who works at a university? What can you do to really help change this for a student athlete and help out the university? We talked about why does NIL matter? It matters because of all sorts of things, including marketing, including students, including the way that we get attendance and higher quality students coming to a school. It all kind of stems back to, or a lot of it stems back to, what happens on the field. And what happens on the field matters, because if we don't have good things happening on the field, then it just takes longer to do some of the things that we want to do. So how can we help our student athletes take advantage of their name, image, and likeness for themselves, for the school, for their teams, and for all of us? So what can you do? And I think going back to where we started at Oklahoma State, I got a call from the athletic department. Well, it was the athletic department contacted the dean's office, who contacted me because they knew I had some student athletes and I teach marketing. Maybe I could teach a course on personal branding. And of course I said, yes, I would love to do this, right? So I went ahead and said I would love to do it, and started to focus on how I could create a course on personal branding, name, image, and likeness. So I did that. Now, in the process of doing that, I did all sorts of interviews with different people, with agents, I wanted to see what the landscape looked like, what the environment was. Was this really something that was going to be possible? Because I'm starting this at the very beginning. We don't even have class yet. It's a little over a year ago right now. And so I decided to put this courseware together. So what does the courseware look like? Well, by the way, I have a LinkedIn group for NIL educators. So if you're an NIL educator, or you want to be in the space of educating based on student athletes and things like that, I do have a LinkedIn group. It's a very long and weird link, but it's linkedin.com/groups/140903889. Very, very nice. LinkedIn, I couldn't figure out how to customize that link. So if anybody knows, just let me know. But please join the NIL educators community. We just started it, and it's going to be something where we can talk about some of the things that are happening. How do you do this? This came up. What are you doing about this? And there's all sorts of questions going on about how we educate our student athletes the best. So in doing a course, and this is one thing that we can do as professors, is having a course. It's really experiential learning. It's one of the only classes where a student can use themselves as they're the case. So the case is, how do you increase followers? How do you get more engagement? How do you pitch a deal? How do you figure out what's an entrepreneurial opportunity for you? And all of those things are things that can happen in a course like this. So it is true experiential learning. And the other thing is that, and I mentioned before, but these are lifelong personal branding strategies. 98% of student athletes will never go pro, which means they're going to work someplace else, which means they have to go through interviews, and they've got to go put themselves out there and try to get jobs. And it's also not that easy for a student athlete to go from their whole life, they've probably been playing sports, and all of a sudden now they got to go and maybe sit behind a desk or something. So there's a transition period. This personal branding, I absolutely know, will help them make that transition into something that they're interested in, build following, build exposure. So it is important from that perspective as well. And engaging an audience, how do you do that? How do you generate followers? How do you leverage your position? These are all things that I wanted to make sure that this course, and any course that you guys might teach, would have these same outcomes. And obviously the last one was monetize name, image, and likeness. That's what the student athletes care about. I care about all of those things, including being successful at monetizing their name, image, and likeness. So I'm just going to give you a sample of what the table of contents looks like, and then we can actually put the syllabus. If anyone wants to see the syllabus for this course, we're going to put the syllabus in. Yeah, it's already inside the chat, so you can take a look at the syllabus if you're interested in that. But basically, we walk through, how do you build your brand? How do you evaluate it? How do you define it? Opportunities. We go through, it takes the core of marketing in this. We're doing buyer personas, and we're doing brand audits, and we're doing SWOT analysis, and we're figuring out what the goals are, and all of those kinds of things. So these are things that will extend into all sorts of different areas. but that's the table of contents in the book that I have, and the digital text available in the courseware with Stukent. We also have a simulation. So, if you think about, I want to test this out, but I don't necessarily want to go out to brands yet, you can test the pitch and you can do things like that through the simulation offered from Stukent. So again, we've got the syllabus right inside of the chat if you wanted just to kind of see. And I know that that's something that I'm sending the syllabus out all the time, because people are saying, so I'm trying to teach this at my school. I'm not sure if I'm going to use Stukent or whatever, but I send the syllabus out. Here's what I did. And I'd love to get feedback on it, because there might be things that you go, hey, you should also add this to this or something. But it has been a really, really fun and exciting opportunity to meet all sorts of other professors in sports management and sports marketing, and figuring out and just marketing what other professors are doing and what you think would be important in a class like this. So some of the things that we do with this course and with our student athletes, it really starts with a brand audit. It's one of the first things that we do is we figure out what it is that the student athlete is already doing. And in a lot of cases, the brand audit will lead us to a lot of really helpful things. So where are you at on Twitter, on Instagram? How many followers do you have? What's your engagement rate? And we teach them how to look and find all of these kinds of things. What's your highest performing post? And then we help them analyze what this brand audit really looks like. And it's an interesting thing, because if you think about how we are helping these student athletes, we're teaching them with something that's interesting to them. They are the most interesting thing to themselves, right? We all are. So this is a way that they can take their own situation and learn all about marketing, learn about branding, learn about the things that are really important in today's marketing. We also help them set SMART goals. So what do you really want to accomplish? And what we get from student athletes is, well, I just want to make some money. Okay, that's great. But let's talk about that. Let's really define that out, just like you would if you were putting together a business plan for an entrepreneurial opportunity you were starting. What do you want to accomplish? And so we help them go through this effort of developing SMART goals. Then we take a look at, hey, do you have a logo? Do you have images? So we've developed logos and images. We've helped them do it. We've taught them how to use Canva. You'd be surprised at how resourceful they are at developing these things on their own in the courseware, as part of the courseware. We also have TAs that help, and we've got a brand squad, which I'll talk about in a second. But we really help our student athletes figure out how to maximize their exposure. Another thing in the course is design your own media kit. You say, well, how does somebody design their own media kit? Again, using Canva, we've got a template. We even use PowerPoint with some of the students who just feel like they'd rather have a PowerPoint template. Insert your picture, insert your athletic accomplishments, insert your social followers. Now you have something that you can send out to, if you've got an opportunity with a brand, you can now send this out. And that's awesome, because it is giving them the opportunity to talk about their accomplishments and talk about why somebody might want to use them as a brand ambassador or something like that. As a student athlete, it's like putting your business together before you really have a business. It's the business of you, as you might have heard. Then we help them put together an audience builder, which is, because this is one of the most important things to brands. They want to know what the reach is. And after they want to know what the reach is, they want to know what the engagement is on that reach, but they want to know what that reach is. It's really important to figure this out. So we help them put together buyer personas and then figure out, how can I reach this buyer persona? How can I increase followers? What kind of posts or what kind of things should I be selling? What kind of posts should I be putting together? And this helps them think through how they should be really thinking about NIL. we help them put together a pitch. Now, in a lot of cases, they're not making big pitches, but in some cases they go, I have this brand and I want to work with them because I take their protein drink every day, before I work out. And I don't see any athletes promoting this brand. I want to do it. Great. Let's put together a pitch. What's in it for the brand? How are we going to make sure that this is really going to come across? We help them put together their elevator story, their elevator pitch, and all of the kinds of things that you would put together if you had a business and you had a product and you were trying to sell it, except for the fact that it's them. And then one of the other things that we do a lot of other things in this course, but we help them put together a communications calendar. And the communications calendar is, because one of the most important things in social media and what is the most identifiable thing about that student athlete is their social media presence. How often are they posting? Is it consistent? We work to get our student athletes verified on Instagram. Well, guess what? Instagram is looking at what is the consistency of your posts. They really care about these kinds of things. So we want to make sure that they have a good understanding of the target audience, what type of communication is going to resonate with that target audience, and then how I can do it on a regular basis. So we put together a template for a communications calendar that the student athlete then fills out. This is my son. So this is my son, and I mentioned before that he was an athlete student. He forgot about how important it was to go to class. He did graduate, and he actually did pretty well his senior year, but he was really focused on athletics. And I thought to myself, okay, if I had, now he had graduated right before NIL started, so he didn't get to take advantage of any of this. So I didn't get to use him as a test case, but I did have him in the back of my mind the entire time that I was putting this course together, because I thought to myself, I don't think he'd have any time to do this stuff. Like, he can take the course and he can figure it out and he can clean up his social media and he can put, the best thing forward. But it depends on some students would just maybe not be able to do this kind of activity. So in addition to the course, if you are taking the course as a student athlete, we also put you into the brand squad. And so the brand squad is something, well, the student athlete has to opt into the brand squad, but the brand squad is a group of our top marketing and sports management students who have decided that they want to help our student athletes with their name, image, and likeness. So they become sort of like TAs. And if the student athlete needs help, and some of them do, and some of them don't, but if they do, we've got this group that is at the ready to assist. Now, this is another thing. In addition to the course that I teach, if you want to help student athletes, but you also want to help students, this is one of the greatest things. I mean, I've been a professor for not a lot of years, but this is the biggest thing that I have done in terms of engaging students. Now, in the classroom, we're always trying to engage students, and we have the best courseware to engage our students, but I get brand squad members who will comment and communicate with me over the weekend, over the summer, in the evening, in the morning. They're trying to help our student athletes. They love it. And the way I got these student athletes, or these athletes, to be part of the brand squad is I went to my marketing club, I'm the advisor, and I said, anyone want to help our student athletes? And we had 50 people raise their hand right away. And I thought, okay. And then they came out of their shells. I mean, it was just absolutely amazing. So if you are interested in maybe starting it's kind of like a marketing club, but it's called a brand squad at your university, I'm going to walk through just a few things about what we do with this. So if you want to check out our website, we've got brandsquad-osu.com, and that's where our brand squad, our members put the website together. They're constantly changing it and updating it. And it talks about how maybe the community can interact with Oklahoma State athletes. We help to negotiate some of those things. And it's got, just all sorts of cool graphics and things that are interesting. It's about us, about our student athletes. We've got a podcast, which I'll talk about in a second. But the brand squad really is an athlete assignment. And one of the things that we've seen is we're actually putting our brand squad members in the course. We're having them take the course alongside student athletes so that they're learning the best practices for personal branding, and how you actually are running a business of you. And so they become sort of like a student athlete, and they're figuring out how they can get more engagement and how they can learn how to do this, because once they figure it out, then they can go and be matched up with a student athlete, and then they can help them do it. So it is so much fun. But the athletes then get assigned to a brand squad member who's been trained and certified in NIL, both the compliance rules and have taken the courseware. So it's really important that the students have some training in branding before we pair them up with student athletes. The whole point is that we hope that brand squad members really have a good grasp on what they're doing. And so the brand squad, we have lots of initiatives in the brand squad. And let's see if I can get to this. Oh, looks like I am stuck here, but, oh, there we go. So we have a lot of initiatives in the brand squad. We've got these little groups inside of the brand squad where there's community outreach, student athlete recruitment, because in some cases we've got to go and talk to the student athletes, or if you have a student athlete in class, we hand out our brand squad business cards and say, hey, are you interested in being part of the brand squad, taking a course, doing these kinds of things? And sometimes they join the brand squad without even taking the course, because maybe they're a star athlete. They don't have time to do all of the things. They just join the brand squad. It's great. Social media, podcast. Let me show you about some of the things we're doing. So this is our business card. And we hand this out in the classroom. We also hand it out to recruit students who want to be in the brand squad. We've got a podcast, which we are now monetizing the podcast for the student athletes. And it's just an absolute great podcast. You can go to the website and just take a quick listen to one of the podcasts that we do, but it is so much fun, and you learn so much about the student athletes, and we're getting tons of downloads on these. And this was an idea that came right from my brand squad students. I did not come up with this idea. We have several Instagram accounts for our students, for the brand squad and the brand squad podcast. We did a signing event at the business school where we had the student athletes who were in the brand squad that, we held this event so the community could come and they signed autographs with a passport book of all the different pictures of student athletes that were participating. And it got so much great community exposure. We got written about in the newspaper. And then because we had those things, we started getting some phone calls, people saying, hey, we want to contribute, we want to give, we want to get involved. What can we do? It's like, yes. So we're finally getting some traction. But the signing event, so cool. So if you think about the learning that the brand squad members have had, they are learning about branding. They're learning, just like the student athletes are learning, how to develop this business of you. And also they're figuring out how to start a podcast, how to run an event. I mean, it's an amazing undertaking to run a huge autograph signing event where we've got 20 plus athletes who are signing autographs. We've got materials, we need sponsors, and they've been learning all of these things in the process of the brand squad. So what we've talked about today so far is, what is NIL? Why does NIL matter? What are some of the opportunities for student athletes, and what can you do? Because the whole point is, we as educators have the opportunity to really help our student athletes understand NIL, understand business, understand personal branding in a way that will take them way beyond their athletic career. So I know that we've posted in the chat a lot of things regarding the courseware, but the syllabus is in there. If anyone has any questions, I've done a lot of NIL webinars with Stukent. And if you go to their Stukent archive, and it's also in the chat, you can listen to some of the past. I did one on how to start a brand squad and things like that. So if you are interested in learning more, also you could join, and I think this is also in the chat, the LinkedIn page for educators, where we're just going to be sharing ideas. It's only open to educators and people that are involved with this in this particular space. So any questions? Anyone have any questions?
Maribeth, while we're waiting for questions to come in, I just wanted to let everyone know that if you do go to the webinar page, Maribeth has done some awesome webinars. She has done one that focuses on the brand squad and talks particularly how she uses that program with her marketing students to help the student athletes. She's also had panel discussions with NIL related issues. Maribeth also has resources. If you are an instructor and you're trying to get an NIL course started at your university, Maribeth has like suggestions and a plan for you to help you get that started.
Whole course proposal. Yeah.
Exactly, the course proposal. So just feel free to check out those links in the website. Those webinars are available at any time. You can watch them at your convenience. Kinda said, no question, but I'm geeking out at how you've spelled out all the steps. For the students, I'm just now seeing all of the facets of this. So.
Yes, thank you, Kinda. This entire NIL experience, if you will, has been really interesting from the academic side in how we can actually use the changing rules with the NCAA to benefit our students and our student athletes, and do it together in a way that's really engaging, that they want to participate in. They love the class, they love the brand squad, and the class is online and in person. It's a 1 credit, it's a 3 credit. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. And in the syllabus, it does show both what a 1 credit course would look like and a 3 credit course, what it would look like.
Great. Well, thank you, Maribeth. This is obviously a subject that you are super passionate about, and you just do a wonderful job every time you present, and we're so happy to be a partner with you. Please, if you are interested, go to use the link. We can get you on a demo for a personal walkthrough. You can explore the courseware, you can explore the simulation and see how all that works, and get the specifics of maybe how you can implement that at your school. But thank you, Maribeth, and thank you everyone for joining us.